we spent the past couple of years in a crazy hot market. Louisville home sales decline as demand outpaces supply. Effective communication is at the core of any situation. If you master these two ideas, you'll have a chance of being successful at residential real estate marketing. I think you need to be looking for investment opportunities that move the needle. The market will never crash if demand exceeds supply. This is what I've been telling you all along.
This is the Jay Pitts Show.
And we're back, folks. Welcome back to the Jay Pitts Show. I'm your host, Jay Pitts. Here with Brian Harris.
Almost just started this, and I didn't have the mic in front of my face.
Autopilot.
Still fixing it a little.
That's okay. Autopilot on the intro, as we have discussed before. I'm not so sure if it's pleasant. If it's a pleasant entrance, I feel like the people listening on iTunes might just have had their eardrums blown out by my, loud, excitable entrance. But, if you know me at all and you're listening to this podcast because you know me, then quiet is something that I am not. So you're not expecting that, at least.
Definitely listening to it because of me. But
they're definitely for sure.
I think we should mention we are hardos now on this podcast. We're filming this, and it's the start of NCAA basketball tournament.
This is so true.
So
it's 12:15.
We're not even – the first game's tipping off right now.
Is it 12:15? I thought 12:50 was
12:15.
Okay.
I only know it. Got a bet in.
I only know it because he's got a bet. That's good.
So, yeah, it's tipping off right now. And it reminds me of probably 5 years ago at this point at the old office. You try to do a prospecting challenge during the first round of the NCAA tournament for the team. And go in there like, I'm not doing any of this. Turn the TV on. Louisville's playing.
Well, we did turn the we promised to have the TVs on, and we ordered in food. It was still a swing and a miss. I'll be honest. Not much work was done. We realized about the time that Louisville tipped off, at least, which that might have been their last NCAA tournament. Oh.
I don't know, maybe.
Ugh.
Probably was.
And they lost. Didn't they lose?
Yes.
First round loss.
Can't remember to who, but
anyway, it was awful. And not much work got done, but that's okay.
So, yep.
Sometimes you try things.
We're podcast hardos now.
That's what you do when you're a team leader is you try things.
Yeah.
That you try things. And sometimes they don't work. Like the Hubers client event I had that we had like 4 people show up for, not thinking about the fact that Hubers is like an hour away.
Yeah.
Like by the time you go over the river and through the woods and into Indiana. And October is also the busiest month of the year. It's busier than Christmas.
Yeah. Hubers is always, I think that's just something people find their own time to do. Also.
They do. Trying to make people go to do anything on your schedule in October is a recipe for disaster. So team members, team leaders out there, you're planning client events, don't do it in October. Just skip it. Skip October. Everybody's too busy.
You wanted to talk about Mike Tyson to start this. So I will say most of this show is going to be about the NAR settlement. So that is something we're going to get into, but we're going to start the show a little light first.
Yeah.
So Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. Boxing
Dude,
match.
are you seeing these training videos that Tyson's putting out?
It's impressive.
And I'm not the guy that's like, oh, Jake Paul is an influencer, he's a YouTuber. He's a fighter. I really think he's got some talent. And
a lot of boxing people appreciate what he's done to the sport because he's kind of brought boxing back from the dead.
And we used to always say this, it showed my age a little bit. After every every star that leads the sport of boxing, kind of has their twilight. We're like, oh, well, boxing's not the same. Floyd Mayweather, frankly, kept the sport alive for, a decade at least, probably longer, with his success. But, we haven't had a legitimate, face of the sport heavyweight boxer probably since, you could argue
Fury.
I think he's not the face of the sport.
I think he was for a little while, but
I don't think he ever was a bigger star than Floyd Mayweather.
No, absolutely not. No.
And so even though Floyd's fighting or was through probably the majority of Fury's career thus far, fighting like once a year, if that. Like, I still think he's a much bigger draw. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't think Tyson Fury is all that great. I never paid a lot of attention, and maybe I'm spoiled because, I grew up on Tyson and Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe.
Mike Tyson.
And guys like that. Yeah. I said Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but you just said Tyson Fury.
Okay. I grew up on Mike Tyson. Yeah, there is no Tyson Fury. There is only Mike Tyson, in my opinion. This is like a GOAT debate, Jordan and LeBron, and I just won't have it. But anyway, yeah, I was spoiled. And that's not even like the golden era of heavyweight boxing. It was before that with Ali and Foreman and, those guys. But anyway, I guess what you're saying, well, all this is to say that I agree with you. There is so much more interest in boxing that is not the world's best fighters anymore. Mm-hmm. It is ordinary people trying to fight real boxers and seeing voyeuristically if they can stay alive. And he's managed over the hill maybe or never was type pros. He's competed and even beat some, and I think that is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he looks good. I wonder if he'll get tired fast.
Dude, I just think Tyson.
How old is he? 57? I think that's how old he is.
Oh, so you're saying Tyson will get tired?
I think so.
So you think Paul can wear Tyson out?
I mean, he's a lot younger, and he's been in
I
this
just,
for a
like-
decade. I don't know how long he's been doing this now. It feels like it's been 6-7 years of like
Who?
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. Yeah, it feels like
training.
5
so-
years, maybe. I mean, 5 years probably at least.
and it's not even going to be pay-per-view. It's going to be on Netflix for free.
Are you sure it's not pay-per-view Netflix?
No, it's Netflix.
Okay, I was thinking they were gonna. Okay,
It's
they're
free,
trying to
so
get-
they're getting a
trying to
bag
get-
from Netflix.
They're trying to get subs. Is that
Yeah.
what they're trying to get?
Yeah, I
Because
mean-
that was a whole nother something I wanted to discuss was like the whole business aspect of it being on Netflix, because you're seeing sporting events come to Hulu, Max,
Amazon Prime, Thursday Night
Amazon
Footballs.
Prime for sure.
It was their first Thursday Night Football. We talked about this way back when it happened, but
Yeah.
their number one most subscription signups in a day was at Thursday Night Football.
That's great. I mean, and it shows you the power of the NFL, but that's interesting because you can watch like U.S. Men's national team soccer on Max, and it's like, but it's pay-per-view within Max. I think it's not just the normal sub.
Yeah, I guess we can go one more sports topic. Or I guess let's do it. Mike Tyson or Jake Paul. Who's winning?
Oh, Tyson, absolutely.
I'll go Jake Paul just to say that.
Oh, I would love to argue. We got to bet this.
I will.
Let's find the line, and then we will bet this. Even though I don't have an account, I'll Venmo you.
Yeah,
but
sounds
like,
good.
I don't just think he will win. I think I think Paul is going to get absolutely obliterated.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is a great segue. Venmoing me to bet for you the Ohtani situation going on right now.
I don't know that I know about it. You have to enlighten me.
So it broke yesterday, and I could pull up an article to really explain it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to
Go ahead.
highlights.
Paraphrase it for
So
me. I'm going to research on my
the
own.
interpreter for him that works for the LA Dodgers, it's been his best friend for forever. I guess basically Ohtani got caught. What they're saying is he had a $4 million gambling debt to a bookie, but now he's blaming it on his best friend and interpreter, saying he stole money from Ohtani's bank accounts. That way Ohtani doesn't get in trouble. So they're saying this guy's a fall guy, and if Ohtani, let's be honest, it was him. A bookie's not going to give an interpreter a $4 million line of credit.
Yeah, he's only going to take it from the real guy.
Yeah, and so that's kind of they're putting half of Ohtani's face and half of Pete Rose's face beside each other, and saying the commissioner has
the
a big.
The tweets are special.
Yeah.
Like I just searched it on X.
And it's like baseball. They already made a mistake. Ohtani's first game as an LA Dodger is a 4 a.m. game in the States, but they have it in Japan. Like most people didn't even know that game was happening. I didn't.
No, I didn't know anything about it.
MLB's messed up. Now they have to make a decision that the most noticeable, most popular guy in all of baseball, probably ever, by the end of it.
You're talking about Shohei?
Yeah. Are they going to
I don't know what they can do with that.
Like, what are
I
they
mean,
gonna
I
do?
think that it seems to me like information is needed. There's
the Dodgers already fired the interpreter.
well, I mean, I mean, they just signed that contract.
They said
crazy contract.
Ohtani going to the Dodgers was plus 1,200. Really makes you think.
That is wild. Okay. Well, interesting, man. So we're gonna have to wait and see on this. Bad no matter what for him. I mean, I don't know. Are there morality clause in that contract? But they don't want to fire him. They don't.
No.
I mean, they want him.
And the MLB doesn't want him gone either.
No, absolutely. He's in an international draw that they sorely need.
Yeah.
Right. Japan's a big market for baseball.
Yep.
His success makes baseball more global, and it needs to be more global.
Yep. Okay. There we go. Let's get into the NAR settlement.
Yes.
I'm going to start it off with something kind of I've been joking with agents about right now, and then I'll let you get into what is it, and we'll go from there. So, but the way I want to start it out is I've had a couple offers on my listings over the last couple of days from agents.
Yeah.
And the first thing I do when I talk to them on the phone, I would say, just so you know, they're not offering a buyer's agent commission anymore. The agents just don't say anything.
And then
and then eventually I'm like, I'm joking.
Obviously, I'm joking.
But I had to. It's too good not to do it.
So,
right now.
have you caught any you haven't gotten any response? Like
They're just like, what?
well, that's not cool.
And it's kind of quiet for a little bit.
Oh god.
And,
So your humor is lost on them at this point. It's too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon. Too soon to joke. Okay. Well, I think we should first say with that's hilarious. I had not had that. It seems to be like.
Now, I will say I've known the agents a little bit on the other end, so it's
Okay.
not like a agent I haven't done a deal with
So they
before.
think you're really serious, and they're like, "What?" And then, okay, obviously that makes it a little better. If it's somebody you didn't know, I would be like, "Bro, that's cold." So we're sitting here on March 21st. Okay, this is Thursday. This will come out when Monday. So this will be 2 weekends and a full work week after the announcement. The announcement of the NAR settlement was on March 15th, last Friday. It was around 10 a.m. in the morning that the story broke, which is interesting. And I should probably preface this by saying we have our kind of signature training here at the brokerage. It's Friday Roundtable. It's something we've done since almost the very beginning of RPP. And it is a non-topic specific training where people come not knowing the agenda and are able to ask questions and kind of float ideas and discuss. Everybody participates. And the interesting thing was, or ironic, if you will,
I was so mad I wasn't in the office this day.
is that it was ironic because I had chosen that day to talk about commissions. And mostly the fact that we have seen since the original settlement, which was Remax and Anywhere Real Estate, and the subsequent settlement with Keller Williams and the DOJ making comments publicly about 3 weeks ago now, we had seen further than typical commission compression. I would say probably 2.5% buy-side commission had become the norm. And if you we're looking at more of a median commission, 2.5 would probably have been that. So, you line up all the commission offerings and what they are. There's probably more 3s than there were 2s, but 2 was almost unheard of prior to the original settlement, and it has become much more common. 3 was probably typical and substantially more of an option than 2.5, but that had shifted. So essentially the typical commission offering we're seeing had gone from 3 to 2.5, and we had started to see 2s trickle in. Okay.
Yep.
So with that comes the question, okay, what is the equitable split between the commission offered when you're negotiating a commission with your seller in the old way of doing things? And we were discussing the idea of going with a 3.5, 2.5 split. And still asking for 6 rather than discounting to 5.5 and taking, a a 3, 2.5, or taking a 5 and going 2.5, 2.5, that kind of thing, right? And it's because we saw the movement in the direction of how much more emphasis is being placed on the listing side for success reasons. Anyway, we discussed that. We had discussed also negotiating your commission out of seller concessions from the buy-side agent when a 2% is offered, asking for 2.5 or 3, and then negotiating the difference in seller paid concessions. We had discussed that. And I literally yield the floor to a service provider that was nice enough to sponsor our golf outing this year. That is something that we add in the kind of value package that we give sponsors, is you get 10 or 15 minutes to address our agents in a meeting. And I look over across the room as the sponsor is talking, and Bobby Pinkston's eyes are about this big around. Okay. And I'm like, and he's waving his phone at me, making some kind of gesture that I don't understand. And it's quiet because this guy's talking. I'm trying to be respectful. And he's like, holds his phone up and gives me the thumbs, like I'm texting you. And then the headline hits my phone about 3 seconds later. And my jaw dropped originally. And I thought, frankly, oh, that's interesting. Funny, that's timing. But I couldn't read the whole settlement, obviously, or the article for that matter at that moment. And so I just kind of expected more or less it would have been like the other settlements that didn't have a huge impact on how we do things. But I was wrong, you know? And probably for the balance of that day, we spent just kind of people running in and out of my office, people texting me, calling me, saying, hey, have you thought about this? And I was like, no, actually I hadn't thought about that. You know, it was all so new and rushed and crazy. So that's how we found out, right? And the irony is not lost on me, right? That we were talking about commissions and what to charge and how to structure your business for success the moment. But it's precisely that, Ryan, that tells me that we're going to be fine because we're in the right place, right? We're the right people in the right place to be able to handle a challenge like this. And you know, we're going to spend the rest of this episode talking about the thoughts that we have. And I want you to understand as you're listening that a lot of this is speculation because we have no choice but to speculate at this point. And I'm going to start off by telling you here in just a second the 2 facts, right? I did an Instagram live the other day. So if you saw my Instagram live, I'm going to rehash the 2 facts that I see that are impactful for real estate agents and consumers for that matter. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more in depth here how I feel about those and why I feel they're impactful and what I think is going to happen as a result. And but like the outcomes is speculation. Sure. I could be right, I could be wrong. Right? Funny enough, Hannah and I are releasing videos and recutting videos to send out. You heard a little bit of it before we started the episode today. With comments I made 2 and 3 weeks prior to the settlement that are still relevant. So it's kind of interesting, right? The truth is, if you're a real estate agent and you're out there wondering what to do now, what to do next, well, the first question you have to ask yourself is, am I in the right place to be surrounded by the right people, right? To have the discussions and answer the difficult questions as they come up, because we don't know what's next right now.
Yeah.
What we know is people will still transact. Okay, there's always a need for ownership. What we know, same truths. Listings are going to be more valuable. Listings have always been more valuable to real estate agents. You know, the old adage, list or don't last, like it really probably is going to hold true now.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got any questions before I go? Move on to
no, I was laughing when you said your phone was ringing off the hook that day or
It was.
text. And I was going to text you or call you, and I was like, I bet. And not even just to because I was worried about it, because I'm really not worried about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you how crazy your phone's been ringing.
It's nuts.
And I was like, I'll just wait to talk to him another day. And we probably text or talk on the
Yeah.
phone once a day.
Yeah,
at
for
least
sure.
anyways.
For sure.
And I was like, I'm just going to leave him alone today.
Well, you know, I got a bunch of those. I got a bunch of people calling. I had a bunch of people in my doorway all day, which is fine. Spent a lot of time standing out there, you know, kind of in the bullpen, talking to folks. And have you thought about this? What'd you think about that?
Does it feel like you're giving just not it's probably not the right word, but like an elevator pitch over and over again.
Not really. Because everybody's concern is something slightly different. I feel like, and we really are surrounded by good agents, well-meaning agents, people that try to figure these things out for themselves. And so that's nice. And we don't have the unhinged, right? The people that you've been seeing post a ton on Instagram doing reels about how bad this is. We don't have those.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not worried about our agents because we don't have those. And that's exciting. That's helpful.
I love the post you made on Facebook. Just we listed a house yesterday with the 3% buyer's side commission and sold it for over asking today. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, we'll talk about it more in a minute. But yeah, that's it. Like the customer and the public, they need to be aware of these things.
Yep.
They need to be aware that there is no mandate for change. But anyway.
Yep. Let's get into, you said there's 2 facts.
There's 2 facts in the
let's
settlement.
get into that.
There's 2 facts in the settlement, okay?
We'll talk about, I want to just give a little overview. So we'll get into that. What could change because of this? When does this, could this take place? We've already got Jay's kind of initial thoughts on it. We're about to hear more. We have a Q&A. We asked agents to submit some questions, so have some really good questions from agents.
Right.
And then we're going to get into a few other things with this, like the Biden admin, what they came out and said about this, which is pretty ridiculous. Conspiracy theory surrounding this.
I think there is some of that to be discussed.
And then maybe what this means for mortgage lenders as well. Yeah. So those 3 things are at the end, but we're going to hop into Jay's 2 facts from this settlement.
Okay, so 2 facts from the settlement are as follows. Number 1, and I think before I do that, I should have said this before I said number 1, but you need to understand that this is not a legal outcome. Yes, it was a lawsuit, but it was a civil suit. Okay? This is a settlement of a civil suit. Okay? It's not an award. It's not anything. It is a settlement of a civil suit between plaintiffs, which are home buyers, and defendant, which is the National Association of Realtors. National Association of Realtors represents roughly 1.6 million realtors nationwide. It is our trade organization. Nobody sued the state of Kentucky. Nobody sued the federal government. Nobody sued the state of Missouri or Illinois where the lawsuits originated. Okay? So there is no law that is a result of this that governs the practice that it purports to change. Okay, so that's what you need to understand. Realtors are going to follow suit. Realtors, which is important to understand, a realtor, which is the designation that you are a member of the National Association of Realtors. A real estate agent doesn't have to. Most are because they want access to the MLS, and that's at the root of this discussion, okay? But real estate agents, some where we're from, you know, in small town Kentucky, do not join and become members of the National Association of Realtors because they don't want to be governed by that body. And that, yes, they can be successful under the right circumstances. But most, I would say in Louisville, 99% are members of the National Association of Realtors. So what National Association of Realtors said, fact number 1, you can no longer offer a buy-side commission advertised on the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service, or the MLS, is the database that realtors search for homes for their prospective buyer clients, where realtors that represent sellers list their homes that they have contracted to put up for sale. Okay? Sellers can still offer cooperating buy-side commissions. You just can't advertise it in the MLS, meaning that the realtor can't pull up the listing on the MLS and see what the offered commission is if they're going to show it to a buyer. They can pick up the phone and call the listing agent and say, what's your cooperating fee? They can email and say, what's your cooperating fee? The listing broker can send out a mass email to all the realtors in the association every time they list a home that says what the cooperating fee is.
You can post it on social media.
You can post it on social media. You can put it on your website, a list of the homes you have listed for sale with the cooperating commissions. You can do any amount of public marketing you wish that says what the cooperating commission is. You just can't put it on the MLS. I would even go so far as to say that I would think, at least initially, that you will be able to send a showing confirmation email through showing time that states what the cooperating commission is. And that is initiated from the MLS. It just simply can't be listed in the MLS itself.
Yeah.
Okay, now they may do away with that. They may figure it out. I don't know how they control showing time. They're a privately owned company. Yeah, I think at least initially that will happen.
Okay, so that's fact one.
Fact one.
Let me chime in and say commercial agents are probably seeing this and laughing to themselves because this is how it's always been done in commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I guarantee there's commercial brokerages out there just like, what's the big deal?
Well, they already think, commercial agents en masse already think that we're ridiculous as residential agents. They think they're better than us.
Hey,
But
a lot are.
some are, some aren't.
Yeah.
But you're right. On average, maybe they are. I would maybe grant the on average maybe. But yeah, they absolutely are. And this is impactful. And maybe I should have listed this one second, but this is the one that made the splash, most of the splash. Okay, so maybe I ought to come back to the impact after we talk about fact number 2. Okay.
Okay.
And I will say, I guess before we move on, I will say that I don't believe this was necessary, and I don't believe it will be effective. So, but let's talk full impact here in a minute. Fact number two. Fact number 2 is that every buyer working with a realtor, again, must be a member of the National Association of Realtors. Every buyer working with a realtor must now enter into a cooperating commission agreement or a compensation agreement or a brokerage agreement. Exclusive or non-exclusive, we're not certain yet. The settlement does not say exclusive, so it probably means it doesn't have to be. But I think that bears discussion later because of the practice that you're going to see develop. They must enter into a compensation agreement with the realtor before they do any work with that realtor. That will likely be defined as anything that requires a license to sell real estate. Showing homes requires a license to sell real estate. So before you go look at a house, you have to sign a document with that agent that says what they get paid. Okay. Now there's a lot of there's a lot of questions about how this is going to play out. And we can talk about that more here in a minute too. But I will say this, unlike the first fact, will be a net positive for the industry. Okay. I have preached and begged and pleaded with my agents over the years to formalize their relationships with their buyer clients. Okay. And an important fact to understand is that the majority, upwards of 70%, I've been told, and that's a statistic published by the National Association of Realtors some time ago, so it could be different now. Up to 70% of buyers only ever meet face-to-face with one real estate agent. 7 out of 10. So what that has meant for our industry, right? It has preserved the low bar. Okay. If you're simply the first person that the client meets with, there's a 7 out of 10 chance that you end up representing them in their purchase, regardless of how good you are. You just have to be first. Yeah. Who is first? People that have availability. Who's available? People that aren't very busy, right? Who isn't very busy? People that aren't very good.
Which I think that's a very common misconception buyers have in this when they're looking for a home is they want an agent that's available. They're available for a reason usually. So
now it could be that they're new and they're good, or they will be good, or they have the ability to be good, and availability is great because if a Joe Blow buyer off the street calls me out of the blue and needs me to show him a house in 5 minutes, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand availability being a criteria, but I tell good agents that are new, right, that work for me, that you compete on availability now because it's all you have to compete on. You don't have a resume just yet. You compete on charm. You compete on your personality. You compete on availability. You get opportunities, and you don't let go of them, but you only get them because you're available. Yeah. So anyway, that plays out. I do think that this could be good. This is, in essence, a listing agreement for a buyer, right? A contract that formalizes your relationship is important, okay? Now,
my first issue with this, or thought they came. So if you are required to have this person sign this buyer agreement before showing them a home, there's still 3 out of 10 buyers that will meet a second agent. And maybe it's because they didn't like that first one. But now, if they request a showing, have to sign this document for this agent to show them the house, and they meet them and are like, I hate this person.
yeah.
They have to work with them still.
So there becomes this. Not if it's not exclusive, Ryan. If it's not an exclusive buyer agency agreement, which existed prior to the settlement, then it really depends on what kind of document that agent presents in that moment. So my expectation, okay, is that agents will continue to take the easy way out on the phone, because the phone is usually, look, the best agents
So
are
it's a
really,
buyer commission agreement they have to sign and not a buyer exclusive.
it's just a compensation agreement per the settlement.
Okay.
The settlement would never mandate that exclusive buyer agency agreements would be signed,
Yeah.
right? That I don't think it would go that far. All it's trying to do is make the consumer and the real estate agent say what the fee is for working together. Okay? That doesn't obligate the buyer to working with that agent that they sign a form for. However, exclusive buyer agency agreements exist. They've always existed. Okay? Unless they're outlawed, which I don't think they would, you're going to find a lot of agents presenting exclusive buyer agency agreements in lieu of a compensation agreement. It probably meets the requirements that NAR has, but the consumer won't understand the nature of it being exclusive. So you're going to end up with a lot more buyers in exclusive agency agreements that they don't understand and be obligated to buy any home through that agent and pay them the fee.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen. Okay. And, frankly, it could happen to really good agents that do their best to explain the process, explain what they're having the buyer sign. And it's going to be a he said, she said kind of game when they say, well, I didn't know what I was signing. Well, I'm sorry, I explained it to you. So I think when nobody thinks about the collateral damage when they try to do things like this, make sweeping, wide industry change.
Yep.
Right? So anyway, okay. So that is a big thing to consider, is what's going to happen. So here's how I think it's going to go, Ryan. So we're going to speak in the internet lead kind of, lead generation game. So a buyer sees a house on Zillow that they love, and they pick up the phone and they call an agent that they want, or they click the button and they get forwarded, to an agent through Zillow. They speak to that agent. They ask to see that house. They just say, fantastic. 3:00 on Thursday, just like they always have. And the agent's going to show up, and they're going to show up. And then before they walk in the door of that house, they're going to say, I'm sorry, I'm sure you heard about the NAR settlement. We're now required to sign compensation agreements. It says, if you buy a house through me, how much you get to pay or how much you have to pay. And they're going to sign that document right then and there before they walk in the house. Because the agent's going to be afraid, a lot of them, okay, that if they bring it up over the phone before they get there, they're never going to have that appointment. They're never going to get that opportunity.
I can see a lot of agents doing that, though, and the person saying no.
At the door?
Yeah. I mean, you're agreeing to...
I think the majority of people go forward with it. I really do. They've driven over there. They've taken their time. The person was nice on the phone. I mean, Ryan, I'd say 9 out of 10.
If they weren't aware, though, of having to pay that, if they're not aware of the lawsuit, and they don't know about it.
I think the
they're
majority-
basically agreeing to pay. Like, let's say it's a $400,000 house, they're agreeing to pay that person anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 right there before they walk in the house. I mean,
If they buy the house.
yeah.
Or
So
if
it's
they
just
buy
for that
a
house,
or if they buy a house.
yeah.
Depends. It depends on whether you're presenting an exclusive buyer agency agreement or just, an agency agreement or a compensation agreement for that individual house. I don't know. This is where we speculate. We don't know. Nobody knows. No one knows.
Oh, this is fun.
A lot of people are just going to just do stuff.
Yeah.
Brokers are going to make decisions. Here's what we do. Right?
I think you're going to see some agents start doing just a flat fee, no matter what the price. Hey, it's $5,000.
Perhaps. I mean, so when it's a $120,000 house, and that's more than 3%, it's more than 4%. And let's just even say that you got 2%. You sell somebody a $120,000 house, and the listing agent agreed to pay 2% to a buyer's agent. So that's $2,400, okay? And you got $2,600 left on your agreement. How's that going to play out?
It's on the agreement.
It's on the agreement. What if they don't have it?
I don't know.
We don't know. That's the answer to a lot of this, Ryan. Okay, so how about this? You've got 2% paid for by the seller. You got a $120,000 house, and the lender tells you they need $5,000 in closing costs. 120. Let's say this is say it's an FHA loan. Okay, so they can get 6% in concessions, right? But they need $5,000. Can you write the remaining $2,200 in available closing costs toward your commission and get $7,200?
That's
Full
the way I
6%.
see a lot of things going, but are they going to allow that?
Who is they?
Uh,
Who can and cannot allow is the question.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, the lender requires that you limit the seller paid concessions to 6%. Okay? I don't see that changing on FHA. Okay? So we've got $5,000 in closing costs. We can do up to $7,200. Okay, the seller's paying $2,400 of my commission, but I'm owed $5,000. Okay, so $2,400, I write the other $2,200 into closing costs. So I got 22 plus 24 is 46. I'm still $400 short. My client's got to write me a $400 check.
Yeah.
They've only got 3.5% down anyway on an FHA loan. Okay, so here's the crazy thing about all this. If the seller is willing to add an additional $2,200 to the seller paid closing costs toward the agent's commission, wasn't the agent capable of negotiating the price down another $2,200 on behalf of the buyer?
Yeah.
So your odds as you're at odds as a real estate agent with your client's best interest. Your best interest and their best interest are at odds now, which is why I think that this is foolish. And this is precisely the type of situation that I think hurts the consumer, because the $120,000 house buyer that's financing FHA that barely has enough money to put a down payment down, when they pay a down payment, they don't have enough for closing costs, right? You get their closing costs covered. You still got room for some of the commission. They still got to come out of pocket $400 or you got to waive it. Okay. But you could have negotiated their price down. Now, what happens? This is making assumptions that things are known. What about that buyer that never calls a realtor in the first place because they don't think that they can afford to write a $3,600 out-of-pocket check? So they go to the listing broker and get absolutely hosed in the negotiation because the listing broker signs a document with them, says, I'm not your agent, I represent the seller, and I'm here to get what's best for them. So now the most vulnerable, the least qualified, the least educated sometimes, the least wealthy, right? Now they have poor representation. It's the same stuff we've always been talking about.
Some states have completely eliminated
Dual agency.
dual agency. So what
That
do those
doesn't
states
mean,
do?
okay, so a listing agent can work with both parties and not be a dual agent. You can have an unrepresented party and then the listing agent represents the seller. So you can have one realtor in a transaction, but it's not dual agency.
Who writes that offer for the buyer?
The seller's agent. But it's
They
an
just
order.
fill it out?
They're an order taker.
Yep.
They're the cashier at Chipotle. What do you want on your burrito? Like, that's it. You know what I mean? There's no advice. There's no consent. There's no fiduciary.
Okay, here's another question for you. How are they going to police the buyer commission agreements? Okay, that agent takes a call that these people want to see a house. Why can't they just go show the house without getting it signed? Nobody's going to know whether they had that buyer commission agreement signed or not.
Well, it's also not illegal. It's not legal. This is a code of ethics thing. This is a GLAR gets to police it. Greater Louisville Association of Realtors gets to police it. NAR polices, KAR polices.
So what are they going to do? I saw in showing time, you showed this house at 10 a.m. Can you provide a buyer commission agreement?
Not
for
every
this
showing's
house?
in showing time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it gets more complicated than that even. I mean, it's just like, you know, we take the way we've done things for 40 years, which wasn't perfect, right? And we just set a stick of dynamite off inside the way we do things, and nobody has given much thought, it seems, to what's next.
Yeah.
It's wild. There's so many concerns. We can talk circles around what potential concerns there are. My biggest issue with the compensation agreement and the commission not being the combination of the two, my issue is that it puts a buyer's representative, even a hired representative, at odds, right, with the buyer's stated purpose. They want to buy the house at the best possible terms. Okay? But now, it's like they tried to cut the baby in half. If they were going to do this, they should have prevented sellers from offering commission at all.
Yeah.
But they can't do that.
Well,
You know why they can't do that?
Why?
Because they don't have any control over clients. NAR has no leverage. They have no ability to enforce anything over consumers.
Well, they're acting like, too, that sellers are going to sell their home for less now. It's going to try to... So you're telling me a seller is working with an agent. Agent looks up comps. Their home's worth $450,000. Let's say $500,000. Oh, but I'm not paying a buyer's agent's commission anymore, so let me lower it by $15,000.
It's not happening.
So you're going to expect them to ask $475 now?
It's still an extremely light inventory market. You have comps. Like, you have comps in the market that show that it will appraise. You have competing buyers for the best listings. Like, even at 7% mortgage rates or whatever we're at now.
You have cash buyers still beating out.
Yeah, you still have
multiple offer
institutional buyers.
situations.
We're going to get to institutional buyers when we go conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's or keep going. And
No,
then I'll
it's just
transition.
there's just so many things up in the air. Okay, like, I want to talk at some point today about how real estate agents win.
Yeah.
Okay, but for consumers, I feel for you. I feel for you because I think this made buying a house a lot harder.
That's a good lead. I wanted to ask next, who does this hurt the most?
Buyers, the entry-level buyers is who it hurts. It's going to hurt bad real estate agents, probably. I don't know. Maybe it hurts bad real estate agents the worst, and they are legion.
Which,
right?
That's fine.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. They can go away. Some estimates. The silver lining in
Yeah.
all of this is that for real estate agents is that estimates of up to 50% of all real estate agents leave the industry by 2026.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk consumers first. What consumers does this hurt? And then we'll get into what real estate agents it hurts.
So entry-level purchasers, entry-level buyers that traditionally, okay, and I've got to speak in generalities here, guys, but, you know, if you're a real estate agent with the experience that I have, you have worked with people that barely qualify to buy a home, but they still have the dream. And they're infinitely better. If you go back, you know, a number of episodes to, you know, I made a statement that buyers should be looking to buy $120,000 houses right now instead of waiting 5 years to buy a $300,000 house.
Yeah.
Okay. You are infinitely more likely to buy the $350,000 house on the same timeline if you bought the $120,000 house 5 years ago, because you're building equity. But that's the buyer it hurts. It's the same buyer that was hurt by the tax credit that was supposed to help them, right? It's the same buyer. It's so bad. We have interfered with this industry, and consistently the action taken by people outside the industry interfering has raised the cost of home ownership.
VA buyers?
VA buyers are not allowed, as the law is, as the regs are currently written, VA buyers are not allowed to pay commission out of pocket. So the Veterans Administration is going to have to change.
And that was my next. So lending laws right now.
Yeah.
A buyer's agent's commission cannot be listed or included in a mortgage to pay the agent.
Well, we don't really know that. It just wasn't necessary because the seller already committed to pay it. Right? It was a seller side expense. So it was not counted in the lending standards, the lending qualifications and in the amount of concessions a seller can provide. Mm-hmm. Presumably now it could be, right? Presumably now it could be. But there are limits. FHA is 6%, conventional is 3%, VA is 4%. And conventional investor loan is 2%. Those are the thresholds of the amount of the buyer's costs that the seller can pay. Well, if you have no cooperating agent fee offered, and a buyer's agent presents your seller with an offer that says, we want you to pay 3% buy side commission. Well, if that is a conventional deal, then that's all the seller can pay on behalf of the buyer. If it's a VA deal, there's 1% left for closing costs. If it's an FHA loan, there's 3% left for closing costs. There is not enough to pay a 3% commission on a conventional investor deal. You'll be shy. So, again, you're putting the agent and their client at odds with one another, right? So, what if it's that $120,000 buyer again on an FHA loan and they need $3,000 in closing costs, right? They can't do that. They can't do that and pay a realtor's commission out of the concessions. Yeah. So that's not a real fail-safe solution. I do expect the lending standards to loosen though. Okay. I would expect that they will react. And we can get to that because honestly, lenders stand, the same number of people presumably are going to get loans, but the business models where lenders have relied upon buy-side real estate agents for referrals, they're going to be challenged in this.
All right. When does this take place?
So, presumably the court will approve the settlement. If the federal court approves the settlement, it would take place in July 1. But that's kind of ambiguous actually in the settlement. It's just it's more of an expected date than a hard and fast date. Yeah. I could see it getting pushed back. Yeah. Because they clearly haven't thought all of this through.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any final thoughts before we get into some Q&A?
My thoughts are the agents that find a way to speak their value are the ones that are going to win. Yeah. And I can give some specifics toward the end about how I think we should do that.
Perfect. And you were saying before that we started this, there's two kinds of agents right now.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was those that are it's the LFG agents, the one that are let's go. And then the others that are just nervous to death, anxious and crippled by anxiety. It's one of the two. It was a good meme. I can't remember what it was.
That is good. I completely agree.
Yeah. Meme culture is strong with this
And
issue.
I guess for this Q&A, my initial thought or some of my thoughts on this is going to prevent new agents from getting into the industry, which, I love the real estate industry because it is anybody can get their license and be successful, but also hate it for that same reason. Yep. I think there's going to be a lot less people getting their license. I think some older agents are going to be done with it and just, they're done.
I have mixed feelings on that because they're so listing heavy on their businesses. If the successful ones, right? They're so listing heavy, and I think we've given listing agents more power.
That's fair.
But
it's another good point of view.
I mean, but it could. I mean, they're going to deal with terrible buy-side agents and terrible sniveling, complaining buy-side agents that are getting paid like $100 a showing and like 0.5%.
Yep.
And it's going to make those really good listing agents' job harder. So, like, I honestly don't even want to speculate whether this, the average age of a real estate agent in the United States is above 60 years old now.
Yeah.
And so do they just say, screw it, I'm done with this? Or do they hang on longer because now they're listing relationships that produce listings for them, these 30, 40-year, clients and their kids and their grandkids that have always used Melody or whoever, right? It makes it easier for them to earn. Because I will say this, and not to bury the lead, Ryan, but I think we're going to look back in a few years, and those of us that are still around are going to be making more.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
So, and all this is going to do is severely reduce our competition, which is great because more people deserve to get my representation than a lot of real estate agents.
And that's really what's got us into this mess is bad agents.
Bad agents.
Like that's
Bad
what got
agents.
us into this.
It'd be interesting. Maybe we save this for another episode, but it'd be interesting to look at the history of the MLS and what led to this moment. Like like the butterfly kind of effect, right?
Yeah.
Like what was the first thing that caused the second thing and then run it out over 30, 40, 50 years? Because I could really speak to that.
Yeah. You could probably do it if all MLS data was centralized and in one place, but it's different softwares out there, different
decision makers, different. Yeah, it's
very
so
hard to do.
political. I'm really not a fan of NAR. Yeah. All right, folks. I think that's enough. We got a little heavy on you today. Hopefully, you learned something. We gave you a lot of speculation and a lot to think about. Unfortunately, facts are in short supply right now. We're gonna monitor the situation and learn as we go, and we'll bring you that data. It will be a large fixture, I'm certain, in the podcast for the foreseeable future. Certainly on our socials as well. So take care, and make sure you go to Instagram, TikTok, anywhere you social. See Hannah's handiwork. She's doing a great job putting out videos and making sure my message gets out there. That is at JPitts Realtor for me, at RyanHarris.re for Ryan. He puts out great content as well. But again, that's all we got for you today. Tune in next week. We'll get you some more information. Appreciate it.
Peace.